Decided I was going to do a brief live today to give some encouragement. Um, a little context, I've been sharing my story out there about overcoming some really, really difficult seasons of life, going through homelessness, financial hardship, and just encouraging people out there who are going through a lot. And that might be you today, right? You might be coming on here watching this and you're just carrying a lot, and your season of difficulty might look different than the things that God has brought me through. But at the end of the day, God is at work in all of us, and I believe He wants to encourage you who are watching this, encouraging others with the same encouragement that He has given me. So today, I'm going to be sharing a very small part of my story because there's a lot to it, right? We all have, such amazing testimonies and things that God has helped us overcome. And so, along with the theme of overcoming your rock bottom, I'm going to share a little bit about my rock bottom story, the beginning portion of it, and I may be doing subsequent lives sharing a little bit more on the rest leading up to where I am now. So I'm going to dig in, and I just pray that this encourages you wherever you are, and just know that God sees you, He loves you, and He wants you to be encouraged today, okay? So I was about 20 years old when I sensed God leading me on this crazy adventure to move to New York City. I was a student living in North Carolina, and I sensed that God was leading me to pack up everything and move. And I, as a true free spirit, I didn't know how to use wisdom at the time. So I was literally flying by the seat of my pants. I had visited New York before, and I just made this decision fairly quickly, right? In a sense, it almost didn't take that much quote unquote faith and trust to make that initial decision, but that need for faith and trust and stepping out and really leaning on God came later after I was there. So I get to New York, and I'm literally just living by the seat of my pants, living day by day. I temporarily stayed with a friend in their dorm as I was looking for a place. I didn't even have a place or a job when I arrived. And so you can already see where this is going. The dorm was so tiny that my mattress literally took up the entire floor space of the dormitory. And so after a few days of living like this, my friend is already coming up to me like, hey, so what's your plan, right? And I panicked. I was just instant panic, anxiety, fear, because I didn't have a plan, right? I've been looking for places in New York City. I didn't have a lot of money. I didn't have all the documentation that's usually required, like pay stubs and tax forms and this and that. And so I'm here in this huge city with nothing but a dream and a promise from God in my heart, not knowing what I'm doing. And I just remember sitting in the little shared kitchen of the dorm wanting to cry. And I didn't know what I was going to do, but I sensed this just encouragement from God that, I was going to find a place. It was going to work out. Just keep going. And I tell you not, God is so faithful. He came through. By the end of that night, I found a place, and it was just truly a miracle from God that I did. But the story gets better because I found a place, but let me tell you, it was not just maybe a year and a half later until I find myself homeless. I could no longer afford to rent the place that I was living. And so I made this difficult decision to move out. And the crazy part about this story, you're gonna see a theme here, is that I was so naive to how bad my situation was. I wasn't stressed about it. I didn't have a plan, once again. My plan was essentially to crash with friends, sleep on couches, figure it out as I go, just believing hey, it's gonna work out, right? I was in my early 20s, okay? And so that was really my plan. I didn't have much of one. But so about a year and a half later, I make this decision. I need to move out. I can't afford rent. I'm just gonna stay with friends, figure it out as I go. My friend comes over, helps me pack up this U-Haul with my stuff, put it in storage. And I was staying with a friend in her apartment. And this is when it gets real, okay? This is when I really started to just feel that sense of fear, that sense of panic, something is wrong. My life, it feels just messy right now. I don't know what's next. she hands me this tiny suitcase and tells me I basically need to pack up all my stuff and fit it in this tiny suitcase to be able to stay with her. And I just felt like such an inconvenience. I don't know if you've ever been in a situation where you had no choice but to accept help from other people, but it can be a little bit debilitating. You just feel so small and helpless, and you feel like you don't have a choice but to accept the help. You need it, but it can be really debilitating. And so that's kind of where I found myself. I was in the bathroom. I locked myself in the bathroom and I was just in tears. And I remember calling a friend and just venting and telling this other friend of mine like what was going on. And it was heartbreaking, but that was my rock bottom moment. And there's some of you out there who are going through your own rock bottom moments. And it might not look like what I went through, and that's okay, right? But you might be in a season of difficulty right now, feeling uncertain, feeling like, man, like what's next for me? Like, God, I've been following you, I've been praying to you, but I'm looking around right now and things are not going the way I thought they would, and you just don't see how he's going to tie it back to his promises over your life. You don't see how he's going to make a way. You can't see what he's doing. You don't understand it. Maybe you've been praying and crying out for answers, right? And not getting them. And like, I just want to say that I understand because I have been there, and that's okay. Like, God sees that. He sees you. He's not forgotten you. And I just feel it on my heart to just like encourage you today that just because he's allowed this in your life does not mean that he's left you. It doesn't mean that he doesn't love you. It just means that he's taking you somewhere. He is building you to last. When I look back on all those troubles that I just shared with you in New York, like all of that, God was using it as part of a journey that he's had me on to be able to encourage other people, to refine my character, to teach me to trust in his provision, to manage my money better, to be a better steward of my money, my marriage, my life. And so I want to encourage you today that, you might hate this process that you're in. Right? You might feel like this journey is like heavy and difficult and uncomfortable, but God is using it to build your faith and your character, and he's taking you somewhere, my friend. He's taking you somewhere. He wants to build you to last, give you longevity, okay? And you may or may not be familiar with King David's story in the Bible. Hi to everyone who is logging in. You may or may not be familiar with the story of King David in the Bible, but I'm going to give you a little bit of context about him because I think his story is going to encourage you. But King David, he was anointed to be king over Israel, and he wasn't given the throne right away. He went through a maybe 15-20 year process to get to that promise, right, of being king. And through that process, it was really, really difficult. His life was on the line. He was attacked. He was hunted down. He was in the wilderness. Like, he went through so much, but he had longevity when we compare him to other kings, that reigned in Israel at that time in the Bible after him. David was one of the faithful ones, but his character had to be tried, had to be proven, had to be refined. And so when we look at our own lives and the things that we go through, it's not, right? Some of the hard stuff, but if we want that longevity and we want to be able to look back and see that our lives were filled with purpose and that our blessings didn't crush us, then we have to be willing to surrender to God our expectations of what we think our lives should look like, and just be willing to give that to him. So I just want to encourage you today, honestly, that there is purpose in your pain, that even if you don't see a way, God can make a way. Like, our feelings are not the source of truth. Our feelings are not a reliable source of truth, but the Bible is. And regardless of where you're at in your belief system, what you believe, what religion you are, where you are in your faith journey, I encourage you to dig into what the Bible has to say. And, just ask God to reveal it to you. Ask God to reveal what he has for you, how he feels about you, and to show you his will for your life, okay? So I pray that this encouraged you out there today, and I'd love to hear from you. Is this something that you're going through right now? Is this something that you have gone through, something that you can relate to? Drop your story in the comments so that I can also pray for you. All right. I am thinking about doing a part 2 and potentially a part 3 to this, where I share a little bit more because the journey doesn't end there. If you missed the first part of this live, I shared a little bit about how I ended up homeless in New York City and just kind of like how the Lord used that journey in my faith walk and like where I am today. But there's some other parts of it, some other hard stuff that came up later in life, and I'd love to just share that with you and encourage you. All right, so make sure you subscribe to the channel, drop your story in the comments, and I would just love to be able to pray for you and hear your story. All right, God bless.